Elbaf is finally here after a wait that spanned literal decades. With a series as long and as vast as One Piece, it's not uncommon to wait years and even hundreds of chapters to eventually reach something that had been mentioned and set up long ago. We've seen this numerous times throughout this expansive series, with Oda often setting up plot points and small details for future arcs well in advance, leaving the reader foaming at the mouth for when that story point may finally be brought up once more. This same method of storytelling was also used for Elbaf, as it was a location set up for exploration even when One Piece was still in its early stages, first being mentioned literally over 1,000 chapters ago. It's a land and arc we have been expecting for a very long time, questioning ourselves not if Oda will direct the story there, but when he finally will. But I think the awe-inspiring wait of 20 plus years and 1,000 plus chapters that ensued following its introduction is perhaps far longer than initially expected. As for the years that followed, small glimpses and mentions of Elbaf will continue to slowly drip feed us info to set up what we've always expected to be an extremely important arc. Now, without a shadow of a doubt that Elbaf has finally arrived, it's a great time to reminisce on the decades-long journey that brought us here. My name is Chempazard, and join me as I explore the extensive wait for Elbaf, from its initial introduction to the bits and pieces of information we received along the way and why it's been so heavily anticipated. The Little Garden arc would serve as the stage for which Oda would begin first revealing this fabled land to us. It was where he planted the seeds for the future by first mentioning and granting us insight into the land of Elbaf. This was primarily done through the introduction of Dory and Broggy, two giants who had spent a century on the island dueling one another. This was the first time we had seen giants in One Piece, a race of beings known for their fearsome size and strength, which both Dory and Broggy put on display in this arc. Dory and Broggy mention they are from Elbaf village and provide insights into the customs of their land. There they live by a code. When a dispute occurs and another side will step down, they allow their god to decide the matter and the means of them doing battle, and the one who prevails will be deemed right and will proceed to live. After 100 years, an entire century, it's revealed they had forgotten their reason for fighting, but continued to do so anyway so that the winner could finally return home. We see Vivi try to condemn their reasoning for fighting, but it falls on deaf ears as they quickly engage in combat once more, with Dory deeming it a matter of honor. The two giants had massive bounties on their head and once served as the leaders of the Giant Warrior Pirates, a group recognized for their strength as it was composed of a crew of giants. We do later find out what caused their disagreement to begin with at the end of the arc, a question posed by a little girl about who caught the bigger fish, with the two disagreeing. Eventually they would work together to assist the Strawhats in leaving Little Garden. It was in Little Garden that established that Elbaf was a clear future destination, a lot stemming from Usopp stating his outright desire to visit their homeland one day as he had been greatly inspired by the warrior spirits of the two giants. This would prove integral in readers highly expecting Elbaf to eventually come, as Usopp made it perfectly clear that it was among his goals to eventually make it there one day. We would see other giants and mentions of Elbaf here and there across the story. One giant we were introduced to was Jaguar D. Saul, who though not born in Elbaf and born in the South Blue, would eventually make it there one day. It was long thought that Saul was dead, but it was eventually revealed that following his clash with Kuzan, he made his way to Elbaf. Due to Saul not growing up in Elbaf, his values are quite different from the giants of Elbaf. While talking to Robin, Saul calls the giants of Elbaf savages. Despite being famed for their strength, Saul explains that there can be gentle giants too, such as himself. This shows that Saul is a completely different giant than those of Elbaf, with a very different belief system and perspective of the world. We were also introduced to the likes of Oimo and Kashi, two giants who once served under Dory and Broggy in the Giant Warrior Pirates long ago. After waiting for many years for Dory and Broggy to return, these two set out to find them. This didn't go as planned as they were captured by the Marines. They were deceived into believing that Dory and Broggy were imprisoned with the offer that they would be freed if Oimo and Kashi guarded the gates to Enies Lobby for 100 years, which they ultimately agreed to, keeping their captain's safety in mind. They would ultimately learn about this deception upon meeting Usopp, who revealed his prior encounter with the two giant captains. In response, the two joined Usopp and began attacking those associated with the world government at Enies Lobby. Now free from their service, they made the decision to return to Elbaf, knowing that Dory and Broggy were still dueling. They even extended an invite to Usopp, who declined while promising that him and the Strawhats would all come to Elbaf one day. Some other giants we become introduced to that would further expand on what the giants have been doing was Hyrule and Dressrosa. Some background we gathered on this new giant was some of his goals. To follow in the footsteps of Dory and Broggy, he was seeking to reform the long-disbanded Giant Warrior Pirates. To do this, he had to recruit more and more giants to assemble a fearsome crew worthy of the name. This did gain him some notoriety. At one point, the crew had been a member of Buggy's delivery service, classified as S-Class mercenaries. They would later leave Buggy's service, and after encountering Luffy and Dressrosa and overcoming the terror of Doflamingo, Hyrule decided to become part of the Straw Hat Grand Fleet, incorporating the new Giant Warrior Pirates under Luffy's banner. Eventually, Hyrule would declare himself captain of this new pirate crew, succeeding Dory and Broggy. Despite being provided with bits and pieces of information information regarding Elbaf, we had never seen much of the actual land. This would change when we saw a flashback of Big Mom's childhood, which further shed light on the character in the land of the giants. Mother Carmel built the Sheep's House in Elbaf as a method of selling orphans to the world government, including giants such as John Giant, who served in the Marines. Elbaf thrived as a location for her misdeeds due to how isolated it was in it being a land not directly under control of the world government. She would eventually acquire Charlotte Linlin, who would become Big Mom, after she was sent into exile for bringing forth destruction to her homeland. Elbaf served as an ideal land for Linlin to be due to her incredible size and strength, being akin to that of the giants. But even there, she was an outcast due to her many issues with the giants themselves. We also gained more insight into the culture of Elbaf and the giants. They hold a winter solstice festival, a yearly tradition. To celebrate this festival, the citizens undergo a 12-day fast, where they initially eat a large amount of semla to begin the fast. Once the fasting period was complete, they hold a large festival to celebrate. This would ultimately lead to major issues with the like of Linlin, after 7 days of fasting, her hunger got out of control, leading to her destroying an entire village. This rampage even led to the death of the giant Yorl, following his attempt to put an end to her destruction. Thanks to Mother Carmel, Linlin's life was spared by the giants, despite Yorl being mortally wounded. Yorl was revered in Elbaf as an incredible warrior and a hero. He had once served as captain of the giant warrior pirates with Jarl. His death was seen as a dishonor and an incredible blow which led Linlin to becoming scorned and hated by the giants. Giants wished to die in a manner befitting a warrior, and Jarl was furious that Linlin deprived Jarl of a true warrior's death. We also gained brief insight into the rulers of the kingdom of Elbaf as we became aware of the existence of Loki, the prince of Elbaf. This directly ties into Big Mom, who was hated by the giants for the atrocities she committed in her youth. Loki had fallen in love with Linlin's daughter, Lola. Big Mom desired this marriage so she could reconcile the issues she had with the giants and gain their strength in her pursuit of the One Piece. Lola refused and opted to pursue a husband of her own choosing, forcing Linlin to try to use Lola's twin, Chiffon, as a stand-in. Loki ultimately discovered this, called off the marriage, and the issues with the two parties only grew. Beyond this, not much is known about Loki and the other beings in Elbaf, but more of that is surely to be revealed very soon. Mentions and sights of Elbaf has occurred a few other times throughout the series, most recently when we learned of Shank's connection to the giants. While we expected Elbaf to be coming soon after Wano, further evidence was provided to support this as Yusuf's Kid ventured to Elbaf following his departure from Wano. During this time, Shanks and the red-haired pirates were there, revealing their relationship to the giants to be a friendly one. Kid didn't come in peace as he was seeking revenge against Shanks for their prior encounters. Shanks, sensing the hostile intent from the Kid pirates and seeing a destructive future using his future sight that could have led to the death of many, Shanks leapt into action, decimating the crew and ship with a divine departure. Dory and Broggy then stepped in, revealing they returned to Elbaf from Little Garden. With a combined attack, they destroyed Kid's ship, leaving their fate still currently unknown. This would become a precursor and as a method to reintroduce the giants back into the story as they would become involved with the Egghead incident. Dory and Broggy came to Egghead with the goal of finding the Strawhats and helping them out. They then engaged in combat with the Marines. In the thick of the fight, they even engaged the 5 elders to assist Luffy in his fight, where they even shared a happy reunion with Luffy. They then were determined to help Luffy and the others escape Egghead as they then called upon their ship by giving them the signal. They even commented on how Luffy's Gear 5 appearance resembles that of the god of Elbaf, perhaps indicating that the god of Elbaf is somehow connected to Joy Boy or Nika, but that is still unknown. I would assume that Oda is clearly setting up further lore exploration during the Elbaf arc as we learn more about their culture and their potential ties to the Void Century. One of the main driving forces that left fans expecting the Strawhats to visit Elbaf is the several times Usopp has stated his desire to go there one day. This desire was first developed in Little Garden as he was inspired by the ways of Dory and Broggy with their values and the way they lived their lives. That day, visiting their homeland that brought up such inspiring individuals became a goal of his. Many also expect that Elbaf will be an arc further exploring Usopp's character and giving him further development, whether that be through personal goals or reaching new realms of power. Several of the Straw Hats have been the epicenter of the issues of several arcs that were dedicated to find a resolution for their direct issue. The first notable one is Arlong Park. Nami, who had been living under the tyrannical thumb of Arlong, finally realized that she wasn't alone and relied on Luffy and the others for help, which led to her finally being able to stand up to the tyrant as she pursued peace for her home. Another notable one is Robin and the issues at Enies Lobby. Robin, who had lost everything in her childhood and was forced to live a life on the run and in the shadows, became a very self-reliant person who had no issue using others to reach her destination. She felt she never had any home, and when the time came to face her past, she wanted to protect the Straw Hats by turning herself in. But upon realizing she finally found friends she could trust and a home that she felt safe in, she pleaded to Luffy from her heart about her desire to live, bringing her character full circle. Sanji had similar issues as he became the driving force for Luffy to come to Egg Island. Wanting to protect his crew, despite what he truly wanted, he decided to return with his family to marry Big Mom's daughter. After Luffy showed him he wasn't alone and granted him courage, Sanji revealed his true desires about how he wanted to go back to the Sunny and save his family, forcing Sanji to finally confront the past he had been running from and adding much more depth to his character. Elbaf could hold a similar fate for Usopp. Usopp's goal has always been to be a brave warrior of the sea, to overcome his fears and become strong. Usopp is still far from the strongest Straw Hat, and still shows moments of cowardice, though when the moment comes for him to step up, he finally does. Elbaf could be an ideal opportunity to further explore Usopp and his own personal goals and the path he can take to achieve them. Does he keep doing what he has been doing? Does he need to grow stronger in his own unique way? What is his path to becoming a brave warrior and achieving his dream? The Giants and Elbaf could help him discover that, and it could be an arc where he receives the most development just as other Straw Hats had arcs that deeply explored them. Regardless, if Oda goes that route, Elbaf promises to be an incredibly important arc when it comes to the overall endgame of One Piece. This is an arc decades in the making, and it's sure to have huge ramifications for the ending of One Piece. Whether that be through further lore explorations, new character motivations being revealed, discovering the final road polyglyph, there are many mysteries that Oda could explore in Elbaf, as I personally expect it to be a very important arc. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Are you excited for Elbaf finally being here, and what are you expecting from it? Do you think it'll be worth the incredibly long wait? Let me know down below. If you made it this far in the video, thank you for sticking around and watching. I really hope you enjoyed the video. Please consider leaving a like and subscribing to the channel as it helps the channel grow, and I'll see you next time.